Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. Ellen Sweetsir's new book, Till We Meet Again, is a sweeping tale of friendship and loyalty for two young men. A riveting World War II drama introducing Sidney Klein, the Jewish son of a U.S. Army officer stationed in Berlin, and Klaus Bergman, son of a lieutenant colonel in the SS, who against all odds become best friends as Hitler rises to power in Germany. Alan is an avid student of military history, a gun collector, U.S. Army Sergeant First Class retired with 22 years of experience, a successful post-military career, working for defense contractors in the communications, electronic warfare, and electronics maintenance fields in Germany and Arizona, a mobile television production company, and a regional purchasing manager for a global metal recycling corporation before fully retiring to his home in Arizona. Alan, during his 18 years in Germany, traveled extensively throughout Europe, visiting many of the battlefields of the First and Second World Wars. He visited the Dachau concentration camp on several occasions. In his new book, Till We Meet Again, a spellbinding story that the pages keep turning until its dramatic conclusion. Alan Sweetsir, our guest on This Week in America. Alan, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Rick. Glad to be here.
This is such a remarkable job with the book and tells such a powerful story on so many levels. What inspired you? I mentioned the military background, the visits that you had. What inspired you to write Till We Meet Again?
To actually get into the writing thing was due to my younger brother, who's written a couple of books. And he mentioned he wanted to write something about the Second World War. And I told him, I said, well, you know, I've had this more or less a screenplay bouncing around in my head. And I said, let me work on it and send you something and see what you think. And so I did the first 5 chapters and I sent it to him and I said, what do you think? He said, I love it. He said, go with it. And the whole book was written off the cuff. As I went along, wow. I developed a storyline. The only thing I had to do was the research for the units that both men were assigned to, and did the research to make sure that the timeline and the positions of the units were correct. But it was interesting for me.
You know, it's interesting how this all came about. The book is Till We Meet Again, Alan Sweetsir, that's Sweettsir. Book available at Amazon, all of the usual places. Links on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Talk about this particular storyline because it really is gripping. We've got these unlikely people that have this relationship. How did that storyline develop?
Well, living in Germany for 18 years, I knew, of course, a lot of Germans.
Yes.
I interacted with the German community a lot. I was a German volunteer firefighter for 15 years. And so I knew that not everybody was a Nazi. I had great conversations with my mother-in-law. I was married to a German. And she would, anytime she would talk about the Nazis, she always dropped her voice to a whisper. So, I mean, I knew that there were people there that weren't totally behind
yes.
What Hitler was saying. And so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of butt these two together and see how it would develop.
And it does. This is such a gripping story. The book is Till We Meet Again. Alan Sweetsir is the author and our guest on the program. I mentioned again the military service, the time you spent there. What impact did that have on you telling the story, writing the story?
Well, a lot of the places that both Klaus and Sidney had been, I had been to myself. As I said, I'd been to Dachau on several occasions, which was quite impressive. But a lot of the cities and places where they maneuvered to, and the thing was that, of course, when I'm there, there's the Autobahn. So that trip from Bad Tölz up to Grafenwehr would take about 2 hours today, and back then it took all day because they were moving at like 35 miles an hour. So the weaponry and the armored vehicles and stuff like that was very interesting to me. And so sometimes my wife thinks I get a little bit too involved with the technical parts of it, but I think it's important when people read the book, especially veterans, they'll know what I'm talking about, and it'll teach other people who don't.
Well, it makes it come alive, and that's part of in reading reviews that people like about the book, that you give them a little technical jargon, military jargon, and that sets the tone for the story that you're telling. Talk about Dachau and the visits there. Just in reading about it, just in watching it, you can't help but get emotional. What's it like when you're actually there?
The first time I went, there's a central entranceway, and it's the size of the camp right now is probably about a tenth of its actual size. And as I was entering, there was a group of students, American students, behind me, and they're, laughing and giggling and, typical teenagers, until they walked inside that gate. And the difference in those kids was absolutely amazing. They became very quiet and a lot more respectful of where they were at. And as you go through the museum part, and they show some of the torture that went on in there, the living conditions. They still have a barracks that was set up the way it was back then. And to see that there's like 18 inches of space between each bunk, and their bunks are 5 and 6 rows high. The meals, what they were led to believe that's what they had to live on was unbelievable. They showed they had a gas chamber still there. And one of the things that really impressed me, there's a plaque was dedicated to a Catholic priest. And on the plaque, it said, "They came for the gypsies, but I'm not a gypsy, so I did nothing. Then they came for the Jews, and I'm not Jewish, so I did nothing. And now they've come for me, and there's no one to say anything for me."
Wow.
I still get goosebumps every time I remember that.
That is so powerful, and something like that stays with you. Obviously, that impression, the impressions of your visits there had an impact on writing the book, Till We Meet Again. How about living in Germany? You mentioned that before. You really got to understand the German people, and not everybody was a follower of Hitler. What influence did that have on the book, the 18 years you spent there? So it's not someone who has casually visited Germany and left. You were part of the fabric of the culture there. What impact did that have on the writing?
Well, right around the corner from where I lived, there was a plaque on a brick wall that commemorates the Jewish temple that was there, the synagogue. And it was there, and it was destroyed in Kristallnacht. And this is a very small town, like 1,500 people. But that's how far and wide the Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, stretched. Even little bitty towns. My mother-in-law told me that, during the day, she did her normal thing, went to the grocers and the butcher and the baker and all that. And a lot of them were Jews. And the next morning, the shops are destroyed and everybody's gone. And no one would ask where they went. They all had their ideas, but no one would ever ask anybody in authority.
Yes.
What happened to Herr Greenbaum? And but talking to them, I've spoken to numerous German war veterans, and you know, at the beginning they said, you know, Hitler did a lot for Germany in the beginning. So, but when they started the Jews, it made them pause and think, is this really who we are and what we stand for? It's hard to believe, you know, a country that raised people like Mozart and Schiller could do this.
You tell the story so well. The book is Till We Meet Again. Alan Sweetsir, that's Sweetsir, is the author, and our guest on the program, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the usual places. And we'll have a link on our website so you can get information and order the book there as well. Just very briefly, give us a little synopsis of the storyline, how these two end up getting together and what they go through, particularly Sidney with family members. I mean, you really expose us to a lot of hurt, a lot of emotion as we read this story.
Well, you know, Sidney, he was an Army brat, and in actuality, he never would have been able to go to that school, even with his father being the military attaché in Berlin. He never would have really been able to go to that school because he was Jewish. But he and Klaus got along so well because they thought so much alike, even though they were totally different. And their plan was to go to the Olympics, the 1936 Olympics, during the summer vacation. But of course, things changed. Sidney's father got reassigned to the States to go to General Staff College. And of course, Klaus's father had other plans for him. And so they, you know, made the promise to meet again. And then Sidney fell in love with a girl in high school who accompanied her aunt to Berlin to help her uncle close up his jewelry store because he was seeing the handwriting on the wall, and to leave there. And the apartment was broken into, their passports were stolen. It was, you know, a big mess. And so Sidney is trying to get back to Germany because they've been arrested and placed in concentration camps. So he's doing his best to get back. He even considered resigning from the military academy and enlisting in the military, but counselors at West Point convinced him that was not the way to go. But he guided his career to get to that point, to get to Dachau, and they do meet again, not under the circumstances that they'd hoped for, but they did meet again.
The historical fiction we're talking about, Till We Meet Again. Alan Sweetsir is the author and our guest on the program. It is such an excellent read and receiving rave reviews, and you will understand why as you read the book, and unable to put it down. Is this the first time you've had a book published?
Yes, it is. I've completed a second one, but I haven't had it published yet, and I'm working on a third.
So your brother's not the only published author in the family anymore. He's got to share the stage. So when you guys get together, it's like, okay, you can each talk about your books. I love that, and his encouragement in you writing this book. What was the biggest challenge for you, since this was the first book? What was the biggest challenge in putting together Till We Meet Again?
Well, prior to this, the only thing I'd ever written were standard operating procedures and technical manuals and things like that. So writing a book, writing a story, I had no idea what I was doing. So basically I wrote it, and it was more or less like a screenplay. And I bounced the book off of my brother, and he said, all right, you need to do this, or this is what they're looking for. And so it was a learning process, to say the least. But that was probably the hardest thing, is going from a technical manual where everything's pretty cut and dry to, a real life story.
Well, and you make the characters come alive. They're well-developed characters, and we get captured by the personalities of everybody you're talking about, and don't have that in operating manuals either. Is that how difficult was that to, okay, now I've got a character, now I have to give this character a personality. You've done so well in doing it. Did that come naturally to you to bring these characters to life?
Actually, yeah. My wife would read portions of it while I was writing it. She said, "Where do you come up with these people?" And I said, believe it or not, I dream about this at night. I would dream the next chapter and get up and write it the next day. She said, "You're just weird."
Well, as I'm reading and we're talking here, I can see that this is not a story that you would sit down and write for a couple of hours and totally take out of your mind. This is very emotional. What toll did it take on you as you were writing this? I mean, you're talking about you're dreaming it at night. You can't just walk away from this, can you?
No, there were several instances where Klaus had people killed that were very near and dear to me. I've been in that situation, and military funerals. And so my wife read parts of it, and she actually cried.
Yeah,
so I thought that was,
I can believe
I
that.
did good.
Yeah, you make those emotions come alive, and obviously in some of these cases you've actually lived those emotions. You do so well with this, the historical fiction aspect of this. Are there some authors out there that you consider to be inspirational for you in this genre?
Yeah, first and foremost is W.E.B. Griffin. I've got all of his books. I love his books, his stories. And he goes from military to police work to espionage. I think he's probably one of the best authors out there today.
You mentioned that this sort of started as a screenplay in your mind, and that's probably what helped you develop these characters, because you could see these people as you were writing about their personalities, their traits, that type of thing. Any talk about this becoming a movie, a video of some type?
Yeah, I've had a couple of calls about it. We just haven't been able to come to an agreement on how to go about it. I seriously consider pushing forward on that. I think it would make a good 5-part miniseries or something.
I think it would too. You can see it unfold as you read. The book is Till We Meet Again. Alan Sweetsir is our guest on the program. A couple minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about the next book you mentioned that you're writing. Is that historical fiction as well?
Yes, it is. It's about Vietnam. It's about a special forces sniper in Vietnam, and what he goes through, and some of the dealings he deals with the Central Intelligence Agency, and at the end of the book, Sidney comes back. He makes an appearance at the end of the second book as a major general.
Oh, and
then the third book actually has him involved with the main character of the second book.
Well, we'll look forward to those, and we'll read and enjoy Till We Meet Again. And I say enjoy. Let's, as we close up, talk about that. What do you hope the takeaway is? Someone reads Till We Meet Again. It's really a well-told human story, but it's deeper than that, isn't it? What do you hope the takeaway is when we read Till We Meet Again?
Well, the people realize that there's a lot of people saying, well, the Holocaust never happened. Let me tell you, it did happen. And I want people to realize that it did happen. And it's not the only one. And to be more respectful of other people and other cultures and other races and other religions. And I hope when they get through this, they'll understand that we all need to get along together.
Well, so well said and so well written in the book. Till we meet again, Alan Sweetsir. That's Sweetsir. Book at Amazon, the usual places. Link on to our website and get all of the information. Alan, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. Congratulations on this successful book that is touching so many people in a powerful way. And we look forward to catching up with you when book 2 and book 3 come out as well. Thank you for being with us on the program and sharing the story of Till We Meet Again.
Thank you very much, Rick. I appreciate it.
It has been our pleasure. Alan Sweetsir, that's Sweetsir. Alan with an E, Allen. If you're Googling, the book is Till We Meet Again. You'll find it at Amazon, the usual places. Information on our website as well, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back on today's program after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, Associate Producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, Segment Producer. Ben Watson, Webmaster. Otto Bechet, Director of Engineering and TV Production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, Executive Producer of This Week in America.